So I'll just tell you a little bit about who we are, Ari, and I'm excited to meet you. It's באמת כבוד לי. תודה רבה להזמן. We run a wealth management firm here in Los Angeles. We manage about $850 million of client wealth. But as a passion project of mine, I wanted to encourage investment in Israel. And so what we did was we built this platform called the Jerusalem Portfolio, a system where anyone can invest in Israeli publicly traded securities with no minimum. We have people opening up $180 accounts, giving it as bar mitzvah gift, and getting a financial as well as an emotional connection with the state of Israel. That's our goal. So although CureFacts is not available to be invested in the public domain, as I understand it at the moment, it is an exciting innovation coming out of Israel, and we therefore wanted to speak to you to understand, what it is you're doing, how you came up with these ideas, and a little bit of the landscape of the medical community and how it's shaping what you're doing. I particularly value your input because you live in a country which primarily has socialized medicine, government-run medicine. You get tests that the system allows and that promotes and advocates, and you don't get tests that you may think are cool or neat or you've read about or heard about, and yet you're building a platform that specifically addresses those exact problems behul, in outside of Israel. So with that, Ari, I wanted to welcome you to this discussion. Tell us a little bit about how you came up with this idea and how you are bettering the world, or legoyim, improving the whole world through your innovation, ideas, and design.
Okay, so first of all, I'm very happy to be with you, and thank you for the opportunity. It all started when I wanted to check if some medical treatments are good for my children. And I have a human genetic master degree, so I have more education in my family about such issues. So I started to check, and I saw that I get answers in Google that are very confusing in spite of my background. And I saw that if I give them some treatments, it will kill them. And if I won't give them the very same treatments, it will kill them. And then I after 2 hours of Google, I didn't give up. I said, okay, let's go deeper. And I started reading clinical trials. And after 5 agonizing hours, I found out that I have no clue. Okay? So after 7 hours of looking for treatment, I found a clue. And the clue was something that is called systematic review. And systematic review is actually a summary of all valid clinical trials, because not all of them are valid, but those that are done randomized in the proper way, all of them combined. 2 medical doctors are looking into all of them. It takes them a year, and they came up with, here is all the data that exists, all the research that has been done for the last 100 years. Here is the summary, here's the conclusion, here is what we recommend. And then it was midnight. I was very tired after 7 hours of looking into this stuff, but I said, hey, this is what I was looking for. I have here all the science combined into a conclusion that because of my background, I can understand. And then I had 2 thoughts. First of all, I understood instantly what I should do with my children. It was very straightforward. But then I thought, if with all my background and everything, it took me 7 hours to reach to this conclusion, and this material is great, how come the public doesn't know about it? And what happens if normal people look for treatments? Probably it will take them 20 hours and they will still won't have a clue. So then I said, maybe, just maybe, there is an idea here for a startup. Since in my profession, I'm actually a strategic consultant, and I work with various companies, some of them pretty big. I work with Google and with eBay and with pharma companies and with all sorts of organizations. I said, okay, if there is an idea for a startup here, I have to inspect it in a normal strategic way. Meaning, is there a huge demand? Is it economically viable? Is it important to provide everybody with the best evidence about medical treatments? And then what I found amazed me. The first thing I found is that actually the biggest demand for information on the internet is for medical treatments. Actually, 1 in 30 searches in Google is about medical treatments. It translates to 3 billion searches a month.
Wow.
Out of it, can you guess which country searches the most?
The United States.
Of course. You actually represent 5% of the population in the world and 50% of these searches. So it's tenfold.
But that has to do with the fact that we have TV advertisements for medical treatments targeted to the consumer.
You in New Zealand are the only countries that are allowed to advertise. The first question that comes in mind is why there are so many searches? How come 3 billion searches? I mean, look, in the United States, they are going to in-clinic visits 1 billion times a year, 3 times for a person. Okay, that's the average. But they're doing 1.5 billion searches a month. So it's probably 20 times more than the time they really consult a doctor. So what's going on? And the reason why there are so many searches is that people are not happy with the answers. They find an answer, they find a contradictory answer, they search again. You know, if you go to, in better times, you fly to London, or you talk with London, or you talk with me here in Israel, and you want to know what time it is, you go to Google, you ask this question, and you get the time in Tel Aviv, okay? You don't go further. You don't search for other things. When you go and search, is vitamin C good for flu? What works for corona? Are vaccines okay? You can, it's a rabbit hole. You can go for days and you will still have no clue. And people do it because it's their life. They want to understand, but they can't find answers. And when you come to think of it, if you go to a website and you get an answer, you have to decide, can you trust this website? Now, let's take, for instance, the biggest websites in the United States. What's the biggest one? WebMD?
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So WebMD are doing 170 million searches of visitors a month. Okay? So it's a lot, considering that it's out of 1.5 billion searches. It's not that much, but it's a lot. WebMD lives on advertisements, on sponsorship, and was purchased 2 years ago by an investment firm that her biggest investment is a Marcom company for Big Pharma. How reliable is that? And that's the biggest site, you know?
Give me the statistics again, Ari, on the WebMD. How many searches are coming on there? Just repeat that last segment you gave me about the number of inquiries and the ownership.
They have 170 million visitors every month. Most of them come from Google, and right? You know, even if people know WebMD, they start searching in Google and then they see WebMD. Oh, we know that. They go there. And so they have a lot of traffic. But can you trust them? And then when you think of it, that most 90% of their income comes from advertisement and sponsorship of medical treatments. And they were purchased 2 years ago by an investment firm that their biggest investment is a marketing communication company for the Big Pharma.
Yeah, it's a problem.
How reliable is that? It's a big problem.
It's a big problem.
So actually, people, including myself, are not qualified to decide, is it a reliable information? So they keep on searching, they see contradictory information, and they have to decide about something very important that can kill them if they make the wrong decisions, and they have no clue. On the other hand, there is this very scientific information that summarizes all the valid research that has been done, but nobody knows about it. By the way, even doctors, when they do know there are systematic reviews, but many times they read summaries of that. They don't really go to the source, okay? So The first question, was it a big demand for this? There was a huge demand, that's for sure. It's the biggest demand on earth for online information. Because it's not good, they keep on searching until today, okay? By the way, with the coronavirus, the traffic probably increased fivefold about these topics, okay? So it's huge. In CureFacts, we had a 30-fold increase in traffic during the corona period.
Wow.
The second question I had is it important? Okay, there is demand, but if we will provide the public with evidence-based information, with the highest level of information, it's considered by the medical science to be the highest level of evidence. I didn't invent it. I just make it accessible to the public. So will it help? Is it important that people will be reluctant or avoid medical treatments that are ineffective or that are damaging? So damaging, obviously, yes, but what about the ineffective ones? Surprisingly enough, the ineffective treatments that do no harm, okay, kill much more people than the damaging people. So it's very simple to understand once you realize that a medical condition is something that deteriorates. Now, it starts deteriorating, you read Google and you decide here to take something that will not help you. It will keep on deteriorating. So for instance, you can have cancer and you can read on the first page in Google that a very good cancer treatment is drink loads, liters of lemon every day and everything will be fine. And then after 3 months, when you finally, very slowly go to the oncologist, it's too late. In fact, ineffective treatments are very common. In the previous, not in the last one, in the 2 years ago, the BOSS event, they mentioned that 50% of all treatments are unnecessary.
Which event? I missed that, Ari?
The BOSS. It's like a world conference of economy and so.
Davos, the World Economic Forum annual meeting. Okay, go on.
So 50% of the medical treatments are ineffective, unnecessary. Now, I'm speaking about all types of treatments. Prescription drugs, there are about 2,000 and something. In the last 10 years, they invented 200 new prescription drugs, over-the-counter drugs, vitamins, supplements, alternative treatment, operation, everything. 50% is redundant. It's not necessary. In some categories, it's more, like in herbs, it's 85%, and in medical, not in over-the-counter, in prescription drugs, maybe it's 33%, but the average is 50%. World economy spends 10% of everything on medical treatments, on treatments, on healthcare, okay? The direct costs of these healthcare solutions, the 50% that don't work, is actually $4 trillion every year. It's 5% of the world economy that is, it goes to the garbage, and this is only the direct cost. What do I mean by this is only the direct cost? It doesn't take into account that people are absent from work,
Right.
are dead and you have to bury them, you have to replace them at work. There are many other expenses, but if you speak only about the cost of the treatment, including hospitalization when it's not necessary, the damage that you get there when it's not necessary, and so on, it's 5% of world economy, which translates actually to the biggest waste on earth, okay? There's nothing else that wastes 5% of the entire economy, and that's the situation. Besides, this market, healthcare, grows a strong double digit for 10, 20 years already, and is predicted to grow like this for the next 20 years. In the United States, it's actually going a little bit slower now because there is so much over-medication in the United States that it grows a little bit slower. In some countries like India, maybe it grows 20% every year now. But the world average is 12%, 30%, very strong growth every year. So the figures I'm quoting, $4 trillion, which, just to get it right, it's $4,000 billion. Yes, it's
Big number.
It's a big number that belongs 2 years ago. Maybe now it's 5, it's 6. It keeps on growing. It grows all the time. So I realized that it's the biggest demand on earth for information. I realized that it's the biggest waste on earth if people don't know what to do. And then I read that actually it's number 2 cause of death in the United States and number 3 globally. United States has a bigger problem. Now, how come you never read of it? If you go to a list of causes of death, you will never see over medication or over treatment. This is not on the list, okay? But actually what happens when a doctor writes the reason of death, the cause of death in the certificate, the death certificate, he writes something. He has to write something. So for instance, if somebody took a drug, then he was very tired and he fell asleep while driving, the cause of death is car accident.
Right.
It's not a drug.
It's the immediate cause of
Somebody
death.
took a drug and committed suicide because of the drug, okay? A psychiatric drug. The cause of death is suicide. If somebody took a drug and
Right.
got a heart attack, the cause of death is heart attack. So you don't find it, but people have been researching it and investigating it, and the conclusion was the second cause of death in the United States. So it really kills a lot of people.
So let me just rehash what you're saying, Ari. You're saying that 5% of world GDP and $4 trillion is spent on unnecessary medical treatments, which are actually causing death. Phenomenally interesting.
Absolutely.
Unnecessary medical treatment. Wow.
Official figures about 10 years ago in the United States was that the waste was $210 million only in the United States, not globally. But actually it's much higher because not everything is recognized, so, is registered. So the bottom line, I started at midnight an investigation of what's going on. And after 1 year, and after I've been interviewing about 100 CEOs, because being a strategic consultant, these are my clients, so I can approach them. So I asked various people from various industries, what do you think of it? And what do you think about what I'm suggesting to do and so on? And then I went to an accelerator and added a team, and we created CureFacts. So the idea was to make everybody able of something very important. And this is the why. This is why we do it. To being able to take care of myself, of my family, of my life. Don't count only on doctors or on regulation. You need the information, and in medical science, the evidence-based medicine discipline states that the best way to make decisions which treatment to take are a combination of best science, which is the highest level of science, is systematic reviews, summary of everything. So the best, the most established science, patients' preferences, and doctors' experience. But until CureFacts, there was no platform that enables this, a meeting point for science, patients, and doctors. So currently what we have data about 80 treatments, not 80,000. There are 80,000, but we have currently only 80. And this is why we need money, because we are going to use this money to make our NLP, which is type of artificial intelligence, natural language processing, better to extract data from systematic reviews, and which is more expensive, to hire dozens of doctors to edit everything, okay? Because it takes time. A doctor can write something like 100 treatments, the data about 100 treatments a month. So I need years of doctors in order to, within a year, to have data on all 80,000 treatments. Now, once I have it, uh, basically there will be no reason to go anywhere else, because this is what science says. This is what the entire science says. By the way, in many cases, science says we don't know. So let's take the most common disease on earth, common cold. This is why it's called common, because it's very common. It happens 6 times a year for an adult on average. And by the way, the synonym to a common cold is coronavirus infection, because most members of the coronavirus are actually doing the common cold, and most common colds are due to coronaviruses, okay?
Right.
So this is why we got a lot of traffic, because we got data about the common cold. So if you take this treatment, this condition, this medical condition, and I challenge you, or a doctor, or a scientist, or anyone you want, okay, on earth, stay in a room for 1 month, for 2 months, and then tell me which treatments work and which don't. I promise you that at the end, they will have no clue. Okay? They will decide something arbitrary. It will have no connection to what science says. Now, I can also promise you that if you go to CureFacts, and in the index we have common cold, you click on it, you see all, I think it's 34 treatments that science checked. Other, there is no data because there was no research. And you will see that 5 treatments are green, meaning they're okay, they're effective and safe. And you see the rest are less. The pale green, insignificant, helps a little bit, up all the way down to red, which is straightforward damaging. And the most damaging are those that are pink, because they're ineffective. But by being ineffective, if you have a condition that deteriorates, they do a lot of damage because they delay treatment. So I can promise you that any person you take, even if he will be almost illiterate, though it's not our target audience, but even if he will be almost illiterate, he can read the traffic light in our website. He can see that there are 5 green ones, and he can ignore the rest because they're just not working.
So give us a sense, how deep is your database? You've got about 80 treatment protocols.
Out of 80,000.
So 80 treatment protocols out of 80,000 currently sort of digested and processed and interpreted by your systems. How many diseases does that 80 treatment protocols correspond to? Because you said you had about 35 just for common cold.
There are 20,000 diseases defined, okay? Probably it's also a matter of definition, but defined, there are 20,000 diseases, and there are 20,000 treatments. Now, some treatments are used for more than one disease. Each treatment, when you do research, you connect it to an age group. Mm-hmm. So 20,000 treatments, 4 age groups, toddler, babies, children, adults, and seniors. So it translates to 80,000 indications. This treatment is for prevention or treating this disease for this age group or for this subgroup. You have also information about subgroup. So in CureFacts, currently, we cover 2 or 3 diseases, that's all.
Oh, wow. So let me ask you, when I look at CureFacts, I look at a disease like breast cancer. I mean, it is so heavily researched. People in lung cancer say if only their ribbon was pink, maybe they would get as much research money, because there is so much funding going into that disease. Why has CureFacts not been able to digest and synthesize such a well-researched and documented disease with so many advances as breast cancer? Tell me a little bit about your algorithm and how it works and why it hasn't yet been able to give me good information on breast cancer.
The algorithm basically works the same on any systematic review, so it doesn't matter. It was our business decision to start not from cancer. Most searches are not on cancer. Usually when you have cancer, you trust your doctor, you say it's too complicated. So we looked into Google analytics, and we tried to check which medical treatments are the hottest topics, or which conditions are the hottest. So conditions that are really hot meaning that the public searches for are depression and anxiety, pregnancy. There are some things that are more common. So we decided that we'll go one by one, disease by disease, starting for those diseases that people are really looking for. This is why. But basically, once I managed to raise now the seed round, something like between $1.5 and $2.5 million, within a year we'll cover everything. Now, the bottleneck is not the algorithm. The bottleneck is not the NLP. The bottleneck is the doctors. They can work on 2, maybe 3, or maybe 4 indications a day. That's it. And then they work all day long. It's a lot of work.
So it's not fully automated. It still requires a physician's synthesizing it. What part of your process is automated and artificial intelligence, and what part of your process is human and MD, medical doctor, handled?
I don't know how to quantify it, but definitely the algorithms work very fast, but a human touch is needed. Why? I'll give you some examples. A doctor can look at some treatment and recommend, okay, but if you take it, take also vitamin E and it will work better with that, okay? Or it can say, okay, but from a certain age, this is more risky. I give you an example, okay? One of the treatments for common cold is Advil, okay? Now, Advil, everybody take Advil. What's wrong with Advil? Sounds good. You have less fever, less pain. It's great. One of the problems with Advil is that the older you get, you have higher chances to have hidden kidney problem. And if you have a hidden kidney problem, you can take Advil and die. As simply as that. Now, the older you get, the higher are the chances. You will get holes in your intention. It's very dangerous. Okay, so is it dangerous for you? Is it dangerous for me? We have no clue. Why? Because it's hidden kidney disease. It's hidden. So the recommendation in CureFacts is, if you're a child, go ahead, take it. If you're adult, it's a little bit less safe. If you're a senior, don't take it. Use alternatives. Use other substances, okay? Now, you will not see it. Okay, I correct myself. You will see it if you really dwell deep enough into prescription drugs and what they write about them and the pamphlet and so on. But basically, all prescription drugs are a little bit dangerous. Otherwise, they didn't have to regulate them. And all of them have a very long list of side effects and problems. How can you decide?
Right.
If you go to a website, you don't even go to a website. You go to a pharmacist and take Advil, or you have it at home and you take Advil. So some people will not use CureFacts because, I don't know, they do what they do. They don't even search in the internet. It's their problem, okay? People that use CureFacts usually are that will use also, that are looking for information, that are looking for evidence in the United States, where was the biggest searches, the most of the searches, are women, a little bit more educated, ages 25 to 55. Why? Because they take care of the entire family. I had groups of students, many groups of students in Israel that I lectured. I asked them, look, if you have a problem and you're at the college, what do you do?
Call mom.
We call our mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, call mom.
Ima.
So Ima is doing the check. She's checking for herself, for her husband, for children, for parents, for everybody. By the way, my family, it's my job because I take care of my mother and of my children. Why? Because I studied it. But in most families,
Understood.
So they are doing most of the searches, and they are a target audience in United States. Another thing that maybe I should clarify, CureFacts is written for United States. Just to clarify this, it's not working well in Canada. That's across the border. Why? Because if I have brand names of medication,
Right.
and we have all the brand names, in Canada, it's different brand names,
Right.
and it's different dosages, and the recommendation would be different.
The CureFacts is written specifically for the United States to create pure and scientific treatment paths for the consumer and for the doctor. Let me ask you, what's your revenue? What's your revenue plan? How will you make money?
Okay, so it's a platform, right? It's a meeting point for patients that visit. By the way, how they visit, they go to Google, and we have a very, very long tail engine, meaning that instead of vitamin C for preventing common cold in children, we have a different page that is called ascorbic acid that prevents cold, not common cold, in children, okay? And you have many, many combinations. So for each treatment, you can have 500 combinations.
Got it.
And we create a different page for each one automatically once you search for it. And we made it in a way that Google indexed it. Meaning for 80 treatments, we have something like 20,000 indexed pages. Or actually, it's now 32,000 indexed pages. So this is how they get to us. You were asking me, how do we make money? Mm-hmm. So they go to Google, they look for something, they see CureFacts pretty much at the top of the 10 links at the first page of Google in many, many pages. And then they go inside, they see information, it looks okay, and then they can add their preferences. For instance, I have money or I need a medication that is not expensive, as long as I'm paying it. I don't like pain, so give me something that is milder, or give me a harsh treatment, but I want to get rid of the disease once and for all instantly. It's your private, personal preferences. Mm-hmm. I prefer alternative treatment. I prefer orthodox or conservative treatment. And then, for instance, in the common cold, you have 5 green ones, and then it will lit up and it will tell you, for patients like you, option 2 and 4 are better. Okay? Mm-hmm. But then you have 2 options, and one of them is a prescription drug. You need a doctor. So you will have an option, consult. You press on it, then you can go from this to online consultation with companies like American Well and so on, or in-clinic visit, like with companies like ZocDoc and so on. So the business model is that we are creating content that people are really interested in, and then it's an affiliate model. They go and into they visit a doctor or consult a doctor, and we get commission, a referral fee. So this is the business. Our business is based on economically on that 1 in 100 visits, somebody wants to consult a doctor, or somebody needs a prescription for a doctor, and then he calls the doctor through us, a video conference, or visits the doctor through us, and then we get some money. It's enough to become a unicorn, because these are the figures. So now, by the way, if we weren't a unicorn, we're still doing something very good for the world. We're an impact startup. We're doing good for the society. But it needs to be a unicorn. Why? Because we need to raise money, and investors invest in unicorns. But luckily enough, the figures looks as if it's going to be okay.
So how long would it take you to turn around a result? Suppose I said to you, I want information on breast cancer. I want to sponsor that. How long would your doctors and research teams be able to turn around results and treatment protocol?
Less than a week. Maybe
less than a week?
3 days.
Wow, phenomenal.
So Ari, if I or one of our listeners have questions about a specific disease not yet in your system, how does that get researched and answered?
So actually, in my lectures, I'm offering people, look, it's my problem that I haven't managed to raise money and complete the data faster. So if you contact me, I will do the research for you, free of
Wow.
charge, because I think that you deserve, everybody should have the information about which medical treatments work and which don't. And until they have it automatically in the website, I feel it's our responsibility to provide it.